like Forrest Gump, except instead of like running with a big beard, he's just walking very slowly and sweating profusely. That's the version I think of. Wishing him well. Hashtag.
Yeah, that's nice.
Looking for a signal for his cell phone.
Yeah. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about No Way Out, the Season 6, Episode 9 premiere, Part 2 premiere of The Walking Dead, directed by Mr. Greg Nicotero, which aired last Sunday. Now, I was not able to find any overnight ratings. I was seeing a bunch of overnights from television stuff, but I couldn't find anything for The Walking Dead. I looked at TV by numbers and scoured the Googles and couldn't find anything. And normally, maybe it's because of the holiday today.
Yeah,
but
normally are off today.
Yeah, normally the overnights are out. So I don't know if any of you guys, Aaron, maybe have you heard anything about the overnights, what the ratings are looking?
That's such a Jordan thing. I don't care. I just people watch this Walking Dead. Aaron, let's see. Hold on. Let's see. I think Deadline has something. Let me see here.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a day or two because they have the +3s and all that stuff to file in. But
usually we get like a rough overnight though.
That's true. It usually is.
It seems like a perfect Valentine's Day show. So I'd be surprised if it was that slowly. Let's see here.
Sure.
I think
oddly enough, talking about Valentine's Day, Hallmark had e-cards for The Walking Dead. I was tempted to send one for Valentine's Day for my honey, but I didn't do it. I probably should have. Yeah.
See, I think I got something here. Something like specific. Deadline's terrible at this, apparently. They just say, like, Walking Dead got numbers.
They had ratings.
On TV by the numbers, they have all the ratings for the major networks, but they're just talking about how The Walking Dead impacted them, but they don't say how much or any metric. This is, it made for soft numbers. I'm like, okay, what are those?
Yeah, so maybe next week we'll circle back on that and figure out what's going on. But again, like I said, today's President's Day as we record this, so more than likely the holiday had some play into that.
Another holiday where The Walking Dead easily factors in. The Walking Dead, guys. I mean, you can just watch the show any holiday.
Yes.
Labor Day.
One of the main guys, Andrew Lincoln.
Yeah, perfect.
Hello.
Sure. Andrew Jackson or
Clutterbuck,
any works.
It's all connected.
Abraham Ford.
Yeah, you go Abraham, right? Yeah.
So Holy Explosion, guys. The episode starts with this. I will give it serious props. That was some tension building because, they give up their stuff. So it's pretty much a pickup of the tag scene that some people saw, some people didn't see, depending on where your DVR was and what's going on. They put it online to show. But we kind of start right there, and some of Negan's men. Man, it still feels so weird saying Negan. I've been saying Negan forever.
It's canon now. It's Negan.
But yes, I will abide.
I agree with Russ. I always thought it rhymed with Megan.
Sure.
Negan. Sure. So
I always said Negan. I don't know where Negan came from.
I don't know. Maybe because
my sister's name's Megan. I don't know. That's maybe why I got it. Anyway, it's fine. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I have no complaints.
Sure. But they want their stuff, and there's just this incredibly tense moment where they send one of their guys to the back of the truck to get with Daryl to get the rest of the stuff, which is probably a mistake. Although I think any of those three were capable of taking down anybody pretty much one-on-one. But we're left with Sasha and Abraham confronting these guys, and it's just super tense because they keep talking about how they normally just start by killing somebody, and then they say they're not, and then this whole time you're just like, man, are we losing one of these two? And I was really hoping not, but I didn't know what was going on, and we're just waiting, and then right when it's about to kind of hit the crescendo, everybody explodes. Some people thought it was funny. I know Eric, you'll have your to me, I was not expecting it, so it completely took me by surprise and completely blew me away, and I thought that was the most awesome thing ever. Like when you kill people with a rocket launcher, that's pretty awesome. So not in real life, but in TV.
It's not something you see very often either, and it was really interesting this brand of tension versus the brand of tension in Alexandria kind of playing off one another. Like you said, it's a very tense scene, but without a whole lot actually going on until they're kind of just intimidating one another, and then finally, like you said, the tension gets cut with the rocket launcher in the biggest way possible. So I mean, this kind of tension versus what's going on in Alexandria, I thought was interesting.
I should start things off by saying that I think this episode is incredibly silly for a number of reasons that we'll get to as we talk about it. I do like it. I do think it's a very fun episode of The Walking Dead. I mean, it's supposedly serious as we may be supposed to be taking certain things that happen. I do think there's a lot of ridiculous things, and this is probably the most ridiculous moment of the episode. That doesn't mean that it's not entertaining. I completely agree with Russ. It's very tense, and I honestly would not have been surprised if we lost Sasha or Abraham. Probably Sasha. If I had to guess between these three people, I was thinking, well, they're gonna kill somebody right now. Probably kill Sasha. I don't see what other arc she has that she can really go through. So I can see why they would do that. And of course she's black. But regardless,
didn't we have a whole podcast about that?
Yeah, we need to go there.
I totally get what you're saying because like the resolution's almost out of like Monty Python. It's like now the Negan's men will explode.
It's like an animated foot from Terry Gilliam's hand just dropped on them. Like, that's what happened. But it's, I mean, I guess that Negan's crew were really into the conversation they were having because none of them noticed mere feet away that Daryl killed the man behind. Okay, so he's behind the truck, fair enough. But then he somehow got the rocket launcher very silently, climbed on top of the truck that they're all kind of standing in front of, and then shot over a rocket launcher.
He was on the side of it. I think he was climbing on top of it.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Left it, these men that are incredibly on their guard on motorcycles with guns cocked did not notice this random guy on the side of them. It was like aiming a rocket launcher at their face.
It was a very like Stallone Schwarzenegger type moment. I would give you that. Like it very much like if this would have happened in Rambo or Cobra or Predator or True Lies, it would have felt like right at home.
And it even had the catchphase.
Abraham said it, right?
When he's talking about how to eat crap, and he's like, nibble on this.
Nibble on that. Yeah.
It's the kind of thing.
Just like a Schwarzenegger.
Like Daryl's proven himself. He's like the ultimate David versus Goliath. Like as we all recall, he killed a tank once. So like every time Daryl gets away with something, this shouldn't be surprising. This should just be like, well, the writers just gave us another Daryl. Like he pulled a Daryl. Like we should coin this phrase right now. He just pulled a Daryl. Like he killed something bigger than him. That's just what he does. It's hilarious to me. I mean, it's still it doesn't ruin the scene. I think it's a great way to. I'd rather see this ridiculous, fun, entertaining ending than lose a major character. I think that's more satisfying, I guess, to some degree. But it doesn't escape the fact that it is ridiculous when you say Daryl killed a bunch of guys on motorcycles with an RPG.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's next? He kills a helicopter with a car.
He's out of bullets.
I thought this was, I know what you're saying. I hear where you're coming from, Aaron. It's ridiculous and all, but I think maybe the writers are playing with us a bit because they know that we know that Negan's presence and his group and what's going to happen with Negan is out there in the world. So they even set us up for it, before the end of the last half of the season that, okay, we're now encountering Negan's group. Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham are in big trouble. So maybe this will just say, gotcha. You're not going to see Negan yet. You can see him later on, but not right away. And kind of playing with us a little bit. But I did love it. And actually, I like that actor. I looked up his name. His name's Christopher Barry, who played the main henchman who was talking and interrogating the group. And I thought he was really good. I was kind of sad to see him get blown up. I want to see more of him. But I guess that's quite the end of him, at least in The Walking Dead is concerned. But Abraham also said, just like he said, who's Deanna? He said, who's Negan? So he said this who thing. He keeps saying that.
He's a real guesser. A real question, I guess. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty smart, though, for them to have that almost slapstick move to kind of undercut everything that's been going on, like up to the season finale and stuff.
Well, it's funny because I wrote this in my written review, which you find at youngfolks.com, where I describe it as it does remind you that this is a show based on a comic book. That said, the Walking Dead comic rarely goes this cartoony with its violence. It's pretty serious in the graphic novel medium form of this.
I will give it this, though. There was really no other way to resolve that. Like, we've seen other times where somebody makes a move and can do something quick. There's really, because there were, 12 guys or something like that that all had automatic weapons. There was really no other way, which kind of made it, to me, that's what made it so cool is, it just makes you wonder, like from a plotting perspective, was this the whole point of the rocket launcher from the go? Like, did they have this in mind when they did that, or did they do that and then when they got to this point in the script, they were like, hey, I know a way we could use this rocket launcher. I mean, I'd be curious to see like in the writers' room like how that evolved if they were if the chess game was thought of that far in advance.
If this was like season 2, I'd say maybe they did write themselves in a corner and try to figure themselves out from there. But at this stage of the show, I'm pretty sure Gimble knew what he was doing. He's like, give him a rocket launcher and have Daryl use it at some point, and we'll go for it. Like,
and the other way it could have went was, the characters were kidnapped by this group and taken back to Negan's camp, and then Rick has to now embark on looking for them. And we've seen that before. We've seen it with Woodbury and all that. So I'm glad that this is just now tabled. These guys are all kaput, and we're moving on to the next thing, and we'll deal with Negan later.
Last thing before we move on, because we talked about this intro, but obviously there's only one other solution they could have besides an RPG. They all, Abraham, Sasha, and Daryl, they all hurriedly climb underneath the dumpster and then just wait for them to walk away.
Sure, yeah, that's legit.
I didn't see a dumpster in that scene.
I think stranger things have happened.
And take their names out of the credits for a few weeks too, just to
Exactly.
measure. Right.
The only other thing I was thinking that may have happened is like either Negan calls that group or showed up himself and took him in or something like that. Like there was, that was the solution. So I didn't think there was any. Honestly, I totally forgot about the rocket launcher. So I didn't think there was any way these guys would be able to kind of shoot their way out of it. So again,
I was curious if you guys forgot about the rocket launcher because the only thing with the second they asked what else you got, that's the second I thought, oh, they have a rocket launcher in the fuel truck somewhere. Like I remember that. Like that's
yeah, I totally forgot.
Because I was the only one that was like, well, what else do they have? I guess they have a rocket launcher and fuel. I guess I don't know what else is there. Yeah. Anyway, what else is going on in the show?
So we cut back to Alexandria, and one of the things that I thought was kind of cool with this whole thing is it was all music and no sound effects. Like
I noted that. I noted that right in my notes. No sound, just music. I wrote that.
Yeah, no breathing, no funky noises, no Foley, no nothing. Just music and then kind of this tension of them walking through, which I guess makes sense because probably in their own heads they're it's almost kind of like one of those moments where time almost stops that you have in your life as they're going through this, and they kind of keep going.
It's very cinematic, I want to say,
Sure.
and Bear McCreary's music really stands up. So
Sure.
a good sound editor or a good editor can kind of dial back the noise and just let the music breathe a bit, and it adds cinematic flair to it. And it was actually done towards the end of the episode as well. It's kind of bookended. The sound effects faded away, and the music really came up, and that's just credit to Bear McCreary and great sound editing.
It calls to mind a little more of the comedy stuff that I was referencing too, but more in a way that kind of bridges the gap between comic and cinema, where you have a lot of shots of like individual shots of zombie mouths and faces and things like this making expressions at the camera, which is again bookended by the way we see some of our characters kind of triumphantly overcome the walkers by the end of the episode. I did enjoy kind of the editing and a lot of these still taking place to kind of show the threat and show how overwhelming it is for this particular part of the episode.
Yeah,
Nicotero's great. I mean, let's just admit it. He's an excellent director, and he's the one responsible for editing the episodes he directs, so or at least having a big part in it. So he has a good sense of this, man. He's just great. I look forward to his episode.
Man knows his zombies for sure.
Hell yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, from a Walker action standpoint, I'm never disappointed in really the show in
Yeah,
general. But
yeah.
I mean, certainly when Nicotero's on the job, I mean, he knows how to put his all into it for sure. Between having very complicated zombie effects and Walker scenes of destruction or disaster going on.
Sure. There were a lot of extras in this one. I mean, you could definitely tell. I mean, it didn't seem like this had an overwhelmingly more amount than in some other episodes, but you could definitely tell there were a lot. And again, like we talked about last week, this being done at night, which was kind of a switch. We don't really get a whole lot of night shots, of this scale. So I thought that was really cool. But you could tell just in watching it, there wasn't as many like CG fill-ins as
they
there
were
was.
real.
Yeah,
Most of them were.
That's the advantage of having
Especially-
night period. I mean, you don't have to worry
Sure.
about using CG
Yeah.
villains. I mean, the last time I can think of a major night sequence involving zombie hordes is the end of season 2 when the barn burns down.
Sure.
Right.
And you could cheat a lot, because you're filming at night. You don't have all the detail.
Yeah.
You don't need to go as crazy on the effects side. So,
I
but
think we all could kind of agree though that like when they used the CGI hordes earlier, it was kind of noticeable.
Oh yeah.
oh sure.
And, much more noticeable, and to see that they use this many extras and everything, more on the practical side, I was happy to see that.
So next we come to Father Gabriel. So at this point, the crew kind of gets to a position, and they realize that that Rick decides, okay, we're going to have to basically get to the cars, make a lot of noise, and then lead them off. Kind of a fallback to the plan they had originally. But they realize that they don't all want to go. He's worried about Judith. So Father Gabriel kind of steps up here and says he'll take her. And given at the time we didn't know what was going on with him at the end of the episode, I was really kind of conflicted about Father Gabriel. I was like, okay, we kind of saw him turn the corner a little bit at the end of last season, where he kind of stepped back up to the fact that he is a priest and that he needs to stop being a coward, and he's starting to kind of bring people together and change a little bit. And then when we get to this part, I was like, okay, is he legit now? Like, is he truly going to live up and do what he says he's going to do, or is he going to flake out, or what's going to happen? And then Rick actually lets him take Judith, which at the time I thought was maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I guess it's like that's a tough choice to make there. It's like, okay, is she truly safer with me in this crazy ridiculous thing that I'm about to do, or is she safer with this person that may be a flake and may not be a flake?
I'm of two minds about the whole Father Gabriel thing. Also, Judith does not cry. Also, hats off to Judith again for not being a distraction on the show.
Sure.
Last kicker. Yeah, exactly. On the one hand, I think it's very obvious that Father Gabriel is basically on the up and up at this point. Like he's seen the light, and he's kind of like, I'm gonna try harder, because anybody that's putting on zombie guts and walking that long, or apparently like 6 hours in the darkness with zombies, I can believe him. I can go along with him. But it seems more like a writer's shortcut to make him good now, because I mean, from us watching the show week to week, there's been time that's passed, but on the show, it's only been like 24 hours or whatever, like maybe 48 at the most, since he left the door open and zombie walkers got in, and like Rick had to like play himself up to convince Alexandria that things aren't good or things aren't safe. So it's like it seems like there's a lot of narrative shortcuts being taken to make Father Gabriel's arc go back to good. That said, I much prefer a confident Father Gabriel than the most annoying character on the show that can't wait to see die. So that kudos to him, I guess.
And I didn't have a problem with his motives. I think Gabriel did come around, and he did really genuinely want to protect the little girl, and he didn't mean any, at least the innocent girl, harm. He may have a problem with Rick, but maybe that's over too. My problem is he's not really a warrior. Like, what has he killed? He got himself stuck in the toe with a nail and hobbled around. He never killed any walkers as far as I could tell. Or at least maybe he did that one in the street, right? I think that was about it. He doesn't really have much warrior experience. So him walking all the way by himself back to the church is like, is he gonna get bit himself? That's what I was worried about more than anything else.
If I had more faith in the show as far as how they handle certain characters, I'd be right there with you. But I never disbelieved that Father Gabriel was just like, hey, I'm gonna take Judith and get him safe. It just seems more like we need to get Judith out of the scene and this character, or else we have them standing around doing nothing. So let's write them to do that. Like that's what it felt like.
I agree with you, Aaron, definitely, and I really don't think they've shown any kind of progression with that character to the point where Rick would trust him with Judith.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like on the one hand, it's great.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's great that like I don't have to worry about him as much being a threat as far as the characters are concerned. But like from a technical standpoint, did the show really do enough to earn that trust between the two of them? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you. I don't think they earned that at all.
I mean, 3 episodes ago, Rick was taking down those posters that Gabriel was putting up about the church meeting.
Yeah.
3 episodes.
He was being a dick to Father Gabriel anytime he could, which was always hilarious to me. I enjoyed that a lot. And I was like, hey, my daughter, and I'm gonna go over here now.
And I think the other thing is a lot of the change in Father Gabriel has kind of happened off screen, or at least from Rick's perspective. Like a lot of it didn't happen in front of him.
Fair.
But again, maybe it's just a lot of little things that added up.
I actually, to his credit, the show has done a lot to show Father Gabriel. He's trying. Like Rich did rip down his sign, but Father Gabriel was like trying to hold church or whatever he wanted to hold for like meetings between
prayer service.
prayer service. I mean, in his own way, yes, he's obviously been doing things to kind of show that because of the whole like what was it, the quote unquote come to Jesus scene between him and Maggie and Sasha, I believe at the end of last season, where they got together in the room. Like, so, I mean,
that's true.
there have been strides to take to show that he has come around. I guess. So yeah, I see.
Well, and Rick, we'll talk about later, but Rick kind of has his own moment like that in this episode too. So not too far. The interesting thing is, we cut next to Enid and Glenn, and they're in a church, and so it was funny because I kept waiting. It's like, okay, why is it taking Father Gabriel and Judas so long to get to this church?
Yeah.
Like, which is silly because obviously it's a full town. Obviously, there's probably more than one church in the town.
It was outside the walls. I think that was it. It was like just outside the manufactured walls. I think that's why they weren't
They're
going
using it as like a lookout guard tower.
I needed this episode to have like a 24 style split screen going on because I feel like I'm a pretty confident TV watcher. I take notes and write recaps of these things, but I got confused when I was saying like, wait, who's in the church? What? Where's Gabriel? What happened? Like,
What church is this?
Now the wolves are outside. I don't know what's going on. Like, everyone's everywhere at the same time. So I need some more clarification. Where's Kiefer Sutherland?
Got out your graph paper, started making notes.
I made a Venn diagram and everything. It was ridiculous.
It's like, I'm not playing D&D, I'm watching The Walking Dead. But I liked the Glenn and Enid stuff. I thought Glenn stuff was really compelling to me because he kind of used this moment to say, especially to Enid, like, what makes you you? Is it what you're doing right now? Is it the way you behave? And Glenn tried to frame it in that what makes me me is not just what I'm doing now, but all the people that influence me that are now dead because of this thing. So,
He forgot to mention T-Dog, but that was it. I mean, all right,
Yeah.
he left him out.
No, that other guy drove a bus.
I mean, he said Dale. He said
that was like the one thing.
They were like drinking buddies in the RV. Where T-Dog just like, hey guys, be T-Dog over here, hang out.
I remember me.
But I thought that was cool, and that I think that's how he tried to relate to Enid was to say, look, you're kind of in this funk because you're on your own and you feel like you need to be a loner. But if you go out there and get yourself killed, your parents are dead now and the people that influence you are dead. But when you die and you don't have anybody to influence yourself, then they're truly dead. And I was just kind of this. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe maybe it was just that post Valentine's Day sentiment that was still sticking with me. But I just thought that was a really kind of cool moment, and maybe a little bit of insight as to how these people deal with death and losing people left and right, and knowing that still having to kind of go on with their lives and move forward.
Well, at the top of the show, I said Valentine's Day is a great day for The Walking Dead. So I mean,
Sure.
But I would say I like this Glenn monologuing to Enid more than like the kind of the weeks leading up to Glenn getting back to Alexandria with Enid, where it just seemed like repetitive. Like, no, you got to come back. We're family. Blah blah blah. Like it seemed like he actually had things to back up that statement with, which I enjoyed.
Sure.
That said, after that was done, when he was talking about the plan to get Maggie, what was this plan? It seemed way more complicated than the actual plan, which is I'm going to run screaming into the street that you get Maggie. Like it was like, what was all this church clock and rags and stuff? Like, what are you talking about? Like that was your plan?
Yeah. One of the things, though, that I thought was interesting, juxtaposed with his conversation, because we're kind of talking about this all as one event, but intercut with this is Denise and that wolf dude. And as Glenn's talking about, like, kind of, what makes you you? Am I the only one that when I was looking at Denise and she was, the wolf guy was, I forget his name, but
I don't
he was.
think he
didn't have one.
Wolf dude.
I'll call him Wolfman.
Wolfman.
So when Wolfman, sure. When she was talking to Wolfman, she kept eyeing the gun because like he set the gun down.
I saw that.
And I was wondering like, okay, she's gonna make a move. Like here, Glenn's kind of giving this rousing speech about being yourself and all this other kind of stuff. And at the same time, we're intercutting with what Denise and Wolfman are doing. I was wondering what it was, and then. Denise kind of wavers with being cowardly herself. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. I kept like waiting for something to happen and it didn't happen, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it was just kind of interesting to kind of heighten the tension or add a little tension to Glenn's
Well, I think at its best, The Walking Dead does tend to kind of stumble into some poignant moments where I think it's part of what the director does over the writers, which as talented as they are, I'm not writing the show, they're doing a good job. I mean, there are some questionable elements. So I think Brady Nicotero does a good job of juxtaposing, like you mentioned, Denise and the Wolf and Jack with Glenn and Enid, where you do have Glenn talking about what makes you you, and you have a scene featuring this deadly killer wolf guy and Denise, and you're contemplating what makes them them. And Denise, from what I can tell, she's not one that is going to take the gun and turn the tables or whatnot. She's going to be the one that tries to reason with the person who's taking her hostage. Essentially, I think it does kind of find a way to kind of show you an example of what makes you you, and you just watch Denise dealing with this scene by way of kind of talking in logic, where the wolf is basically doing anything he can to escape this place, and obviously we'll get more to what happens to him. But I do think the show is somewhat clever in having Glenn's scene juxtaposed with the wolf scene going on.
Sure.
And in the church, there was that writing on the wall too. It's a faith without works is dead. Was a quote from the scripture, I suppose, and that really got Enid's face. I mean, if you look at her face, it opened her eyes somewhat, and then I guess that was the theme. We know the show likes to hit things right on the nose for the whole episode. Taking action and taking charge of the situation. You can't just have faith without taking action.
No way out.
No way out.
So then we cut back to the group. Am I the only one that asked why are they still holding hands? Like why are they still holding
Well,
hands?
nighttime came really quick too. That was the other part, right? It was daytime, now it's nighttime. All of a sudden, like, what happened?
There was a deleted scene where they all played Red Rover to try to lure away the walkers. And it really did not work.
But I was like, why are they holding hands? Like it's not pitch black and it's not like I can
understand, I guess, the logic to why they're doing it. But yes, it does look
separate.
silly. The other question I had is like, I wonder how far apart they shot these scenes. Because I feel like Sam, Major Dodson, R.I.P. Sorry, we'll get there. Sorry, Jerry.
Yes.
I do think he seemed like he got older in his final moments on screen.
Yeah.
It seemed like you seem like puberty hit you a little bit before this episode got shot.
I agree. I totally agree.
There was a mid-season break. Maybe they broke for a few months. He had a growth spurt. Here we go, back to episode.
Maybe we wrote that scene. It's like, I guess I killed Dodson now.
He's killing him off now.
He's too old.
So the charity event, Hands Across
There
Alexandria.
you go. That was supposed to be Friday.
Walkers don't really hold hands, right? Let's just start off there. So they're trying to disguise themselves as walkers. They're not really doing that good of a job.
In a walker's mind, they might be like, handhold? What? Kill.
That'd be funny if like from now on we just randomly see a bunch of walkers
It's
holding
a
hands.
justify. They retcon zombie behavior by having them hold hands.
They're learning. So of course Sam starts to freak out. He remembers what Carol told him about what happens to bad boys and they do all this crazy stuff. He freezes because of course he did.
If this was a Simpsons episode, it would have like that scene where like things are swirling around his head. It'd be like Carol talking, like don't do this,
Yes.
a zombie, and like a plate of cookies. Like that'd be the things that are swirling
No,
around.
Sexy Flanders.
Sexy Flanders, of course.
Yeah, Sexy Flanders.
I forgot my Tiny Tim record.
These in-jokes are killing the audience right now, I'm sure.
I know they're probably like
That's 10-year-old Simpsons episodes.
10.
Yeah, exactly.
That's being kind.
Yeah. Sam stops. Got it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also great editing. Again, they zoomed in on Sam. Carol's voiceover was there, and they had this really crazy, spooky, creepy montage of walkers with their mouths and just cool. I love seeing that. Like, you don't see that too often, and that was really artistically done as well. But Carol really messed this kid up. I mean,
Well,
she really did a number on him.
Let's face it.
Seeing your father get shot in front of you, doesn't
The
help.
last week for Sam has been a pretty rough one. Let's get over
Yeah.
there.
But so I get Sam getting killed, and it shocked me, but didn't shock me. Like I kind of knew that was coming, right? They make a big deal of him going when everybody said he shouldn't go. I was not expecting Jesse. I don't know why. We'll talk. We'll do if we have time. We'll do a little spoiler section in the end. But anyway,
I mean, as a comic reader, which we all are, I kind of saw it coming. I was like, oh, well, that has to be the scene, I guess.
But see, I thought she was really developing into a strong character. I didn't think they were going to kill her off that quickly, even though it's in the book, fine. But I thought she was going to be a good foil for Rick for at least another half a season or longer.
I didn't necessarily think like, man, this is going to be an episode where Sam and Jesse and Braun get killed. But at the same time, once it started happening, I was like, I can feel a domino effect taking place here. Although it is really silly. We'll get to once the scene culminates, we'll get to that. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So Sam gets bit. Jesse freaks out, rightfully so. Her son, is being eaten in front of her, and she just starts screaming. And at some point, I'm like, okay, so in a way, they almost had to kill Jesse because the one thing that was going through my head is, okay, why did the walkers turn on Sam, but yet Jesse is screaming and everybody stopped and they're not moving towards her? So then when the walkers turn on her, then I'm like, okay, at least that makes sense. Like I was gonna have a serious issue if, for some reason, even though he wasn't making a ton of noise, they turned on him, but they didn't turn on Jesse, who's having a complete meltdown.
There's a weird variable involving walker intelligence that we just don't really know. That makes it hard to kind of.
True.
And obviously they're all holding hands while eating Sam, so it made it difficult for them to get to Jesse. Yeah,
sure. But then of course, Rick has to chop her hand off, just take multiple whacks, which was horrible. Oh my god.
That was. I was just like, why did you just let go?
I was like,
just let go.
So we get to see that, and then of course that's when Ron has his freak out moment and points the gun at Rick because in Ron's eyes, not only is Rick responsible for killing his father, but now he's endangered the rest of his family. Got his brother and his mother killed. So at this point, and this has kind of been building. I mean, this didn't come.
Was he pointing at Rick, or was he just pointing at the Grimeses in general?
I think it was.
I thought he was pointing at Rick.
Yeah, he kept saying you, and he's like, at Rick.
Well, I mean, the camera had both. Like, it had Carl and Rick in the front. I mean, sure. I'm just wondering because it just seemed like.
Yeah, he didn't have the laser pointer on the but I kind of understood it to be Rick and not Carl. So at that moment, Michonne's instincts kick in. Ron gets stabbed through the chest, which of course causes him to have a reaction, fires off the gun, and at that point they realize, okay, they need to get the hell out of there when everybody turns and they see that Carl's been shot in the eye. Which really throws a monkey wrench in their plans of trying to lead them away, get in the car, and carry them off.
Because
So,
Carl with one eye, he can't hold hands and turn left at the same time.
no.
But no, again, after seeing Jesse's hand get like chopped off, I was like, okay, my mind was so like set to the comics at that point. I was like, okay, I get where this is going. I guess this is fun for me because I'm a person that reads the comic and sees that the show is very clearly kind of sticking to how things play out at this point.
So are we sticking to the if if it happens on the show, we can talk about it in the comics?
This is just directly lifted. I mean, there's no replacement of characters here. This is just directly lifted out of the comics. I don't know what we're spoiling at this point.
Sure.
Just another cool montage too when Jesse got bit and got hers, and then Rick had this little flashback of the moments with Jesse, her smiling and winking at him and little kissing. That was pretty cool too. And I didn't expect. I know it's written, I know it's in the books, but I just didn't expect her to go this quickly. She was developing into a really strong character, at least a good foil for him. I didn't expect it to happen like that. Also, stylistically, you didn't really hear her scream that much. You didn't hear her like
drop the audio.
They dropped the audio. Yeah, they just kind of killed it. She's gone. She's out. She's done. They're just devouring her. That's the end of it.
Well, not to get into something that hasn't happened or has happened kind of sort of in the show, but there's a character that is not in the show now that is in the book. And given that character is not in the show, I assumed Jesse was going to kind of fill that void.
Fair, yeah,
so that's why I didn't think she was going to get it as well. So when she did, I was legitimately surprised, even though, like we said, we've seen it happen in other places.
Sense, I guess I guess to read back a bit to the kind of spoiler comic thing. I guess because I think we've always been kind of like tricky on whether or not to spoil certain aspects of the comic. I guess we could ask the listeners, like, do you, and I can probably put this in a Facebook question on the Facebook group, is do you the listener, like, once a thing that's been kind of directly lifted out of the comics has been revealed in the show, is that okay for us to talk about? Like I'm posing that to you, the listener, right now, I guess, if you want to.
I think up to this point, anything that's been in the show was fair game, and then anything that was in the comic was more conjectural and spoiler.
Yeah, for sure. Because we obviously talked about Negan a lot, but we haven't talked explicitly about who this person is, what they do, what happens involving them.
Right.
Like,
and with the Governor, we kind of did that too. We talked about the differences between the Governor of the comic and the Governor of the show.
After half an
So
hour.
many.
It just feels like it's not just like it's like a variation of a scene from the comic, but this is just so directly lifted from it. It feels like that's
Yeah, absolutely. The only difference being is the level of damage that Carl suffers at the hands of the gunshot, which in the comic was extensive.
It just looks. I think it's just because the comic looks so. You can detail it more in the comic. You can vary how that kind of shot would be detailed in the comic versus.
Yeah.
But yeah, the comic looks like
a person.
I think lots of times.
That's what the skull was missing in the comic.
Yeah,
His
let's put
temple
it
was
this
gone in the comic. It's like I don't know if it's even physically possible to do, with a human.
In the show, it's more believable that he could survive what happened.
For sure, yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing but realism on The Walking Dead. I mean, Daryl did kill a group of guys in RPG.
Yeah. But at this moment, the focus, of course, is to get Carl back to the infirmary, so that they can take care of Carl, which they're able to kind of get their way back there. Once this is all going on, they're trying to stabilize Carl. Rick is just like freaking out, like seriously, he's having his Tyrese moment, where he's just so enraged and he knows there's nothing he can do to help Carl. Like he's not a doctor, he's not a medic, he can't do anything, and Carl's kind of out of it at this point, so he's not even able to kind of sit there and kind of reassure him with anything. So he grabs that hatchet, heads out the door, and just starts going to town, which at this point it kind of inspires everybody else. Rosita sees what's going on and she kind of gathers her troops. Eugene is becoming like a recovering coward.
Exactly what he is.
Because at that point he's like, he's got to get his fair share too. They try and talk him out of it, and he's pretty adamant about doing it.
Which is right out of the comic as well. Eugene has this kind of like people talk about this one. Like he said, that's like a line right out of the comics.
He ripped it right out. I just have a question about Rick's motivation for 1 second. Do you think, because we've seen Rick go on this binge when Lori got killed, he went into the prison and just took out a whole cell block of walkers. Was he doing it just for himself, or was he actually doing it to save the town, saying, you know what, enough's enough, we're going to take these walkers out of here, they have to get out of this town? What do you think his motivation was?
I think in this instance it was a Rick rage that turned into that. Whereas I think the prison massacre was, I'm going to take out these zombies in prison, right? They killed my wife. But now it's more like, I'm going to kill these walkers. Hey, there's guys helping me. All right, well, I'll kill these walkers. Like I think it just morphed into that as he was going.
Okay.
Well,
There was an article I read. It might have been your review, Aaron. They likened this to like near the end of a musical where everybody joins into the one big theme song.
I did not read that, but that's very amusing. I agree.
Yeah, like everyone joining into like the one big chorus of zombie kill.
But I think Rick kind of has this moment where he's like, there are so many of them. They're going to overrun this infirmary. Like once they know this is where we headed, they heard the noise, they hear everything. We're making noise inside the place. He knows they're coming, and so I think at this moment he's like, again, more loss. I think he's just like, I got to do what I can do, even if it's just staving them off for 5 minutes. If I buy them 5 minutes for them to work on Carl to stabilize him and get him out of here, then I've done what I needed to do.
For sure, Rick Rage. There's layers to it. I mean, Rick's
okay. It's complex. There's different layers, different stages of Rick Rage. I understand.
We'll make a scale and turn into a meme later. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot into Rick's Rage. He's not an idiot, which I think that phrase alone could inspire a ton of names right there. But Rick, I mean, yes, I agree with you where he's like, I can do this to buy time. Also, I'm really pissed off right now.
Yeah, and in between, but before he actually gets to the infirmary, Denise and the W Man, they're still together, and then Carol takes him out.
We got
gets him in the arm.
A bunch of stuff that happens right there.
Yeah. But I found it interesting the way the W Man did go, or Wolfman, whatever we're calling him. When he went down, he really tried to protect Denise. Like he knew he was dead, but he tackled a few zombies on the way down to try to give her a chance to run away.
I mean,
so he really
had to change it. Like it worked for Morgan's his therapy. It worked to change the wolf.
Well, it's interesting you say that because Carol, they zoomed in on her face actually, and she sees that he did that. Like she sees that he actually tried to save Denise a little bit, and she had this kind of weird look on her face. Okay, wow, maybe like a surprise look. So maybe she picked up on it that Morgan's way did actually work to a certain degree.
They have to do something to carry on that plot line involving the one side versus the other side as far as morality is concerned in this world. So as long as they're not slap fighting anymore, I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, that was true.
Now, with that said, is this the end of the wolves? Like by killing Big Bad Guy and what seemed to be
the last of the Mohicans, last of the wolves.
Yeah, are all the wolves dead now? Like I feel like Rick murdered most of them with an AK-47 in the last time we saw a pack of them. So
it's probably pretty much it.
We're done with wolves, and we have a Negan crew coming.
Maybe one of them got adopted into the Negan group. You may see some more W's on some foreheads, right? But who knows?
And maybe what we're seeing too is the development of factions.
Yeah, for sure.
Where there's multiple groups that are going to kind of be involved. So I don't know. Maybe not. I think they serve their purpose. So if they went away,
that's my next question. Did they serve their purpose? I mean, we had a lot of teasing of wolves, and then they raided the facility, which I guess in its own way led to a whole arc about the Terminus group that didn't really have much of a long run, but they had a lot of teasing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we never had wolves again. So I guess I do what you're saying, Russ, though, like factions, and if that plays a factor later, we certainly established wolves, so we see people W's on their heads. We already have an idea of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to back up into the whole Jesse and her family get killed thing, I didn't talk about how ridiculous I found that whole scene to be, where because now we're on Carl, which is that's the show in a nutshell right there. We have this horrific event where 2 children and the mother are murdered, but we'll probably never talk about them ever again except in passing. If it's like Jesse and like dwells on that for a moment, but that's probably it. Which is that's not a great way to tell a story. I think anyway, there should be some more emotional connection to like what just happened, regardless of how annoying some of those characters can be. But instead, we just killed 3 people off and we're kind of moving on right away.
And it was the first time we've seen a child killed,
like a living child,
on screen, like actually on camera, taken down. I don't think we've seen. Oh, actually, wait a second. Wasn't Lizzie? Did we see Lizzie? No, we didn't see her go down, did we? It was just her body was shown, but we didn't see that. And then making Lizzie see. This is actually the first time a walker has bitten into a child. We've seen it on screen.
Yeah, that's true.
And if it means anything anymore, I don't know if that's even. We've seen so much at this point, 6.5 seasons of carnage, but definitely was momentous.
Since the romantic movie of the year, Deadpool came out, you might as well show as much R-rated stuff on TV as you can, I guess, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They seem to be using the S word as much as they can too. And this season.
Well, they're preparing you for Negan. So.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was a kind of a cool moment is Michonne realizes she has to go out there and get Rick. But she's worried about Carl. She even kisses Carl on the forehead before she goes out. It was like super quick, but I just really thought that was a cool moment because Michonne has really, her and Carl have really kind of bonded with each other, and I think their relationship is maybe responsible for a lot of Michonne's growth as a character, at least from a writing perspective. So I like the fact that they just didn't dismiss that, and that it really, what's happened to Carl is really a problem for her, and it really is affecting her on a pretty deep level. So again, really quick, really subtle, but I thought it was very well done.
Well, if we're talking about that and Michonne's growth, at the end of the episode, she's holding the baby. Just for a quick scene, you see her holding her in the house or near the house, and that's, I mean, a few seasons ago, she couldn't even get near the baby. It was reminding her of her own child. So she's really grown as a character.
And when she first joined the group, Carl was like one of the first ones she really opened up to. I mean, remember in Clear when they go into the diner for like the stuffed animal or whatever. She's bonded with them since then. I mean, they've been close since then. It was cool to see them pay service to that in this way.
Yeah. And just when we're going to go to the way they're fighting, that phalanx style, they all kind of do back to back.
Yeah, they really that was 300 before this episode.
All we're missing was the shields.
Well, we've seen it before in the show, so it's cool to see them do that again.
This is Alexandria.
They clearly have cable, I guess, because like they're not much used anywhere else, but they are big movie fans. So they can realize, hey, if we all stand like this back to back.
We've seen them use this tactic before, but it's actually pretty cool. They may have DVD players, they had power, right? They may have some DVDs laying around. You never know.
When did the show start? 2009, 2010?
2010-ish, 11,
It's probably on TV at that point.
Possible, yeah, it's on DVD right now.
And who would have thought Eugene would have the best line of the night, right? Like he goes, "No one gets to clock out."
That's right.
I just thought that was.
I saw his shotgun and walked over, shirt off.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, like we're saying, we kind of get this crazy montage of all these people just going berserk on these walkers, and it was a lot of like solo shots. Like it was a lot of like not first person, but like POV, I guess maybe shots. Against dark backgrounds and stuff. It was very and it started to get faster and faster and faster. So it was kind of cool to see that when the adrenaline kicks in and people are motivated, what they could do in this world. And even you could tell like people looking outside of their houses that were probably 3 months ago would never even have thought of doing anything remotely like this are on board and helping out. So
Tobin was
kind of cool.
Yeah, Tobin. Who was it? Aaron's boyfriend, I guess. Eric was out there. I mean, people didn't expect to see. You thought they were quote unquote civilians, but they were actually out there in that mix.
I was trying to get a handle on which red shirt was which in this episode.
Yeah, Dr. Dre's out there kicking ass. I mean, come on.
Yeah, okay.
He's like going to be on 24 apparently.
He's the lead.
So long he's on the show, perhaps.
You're making Jerry very mad here. Don't do that.
Just going by television logic, which is widely known. Maybe
he's a goner.
Walking Dead's not on all year. Maybe he can do both. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, pretty Morgan's gonna be movie still, probably. I don't know. We'll see.
Sure. Yeah. So as all this is going on, we cut back to Glenn and Enid, who are trying to go after Maggie, and the walkers. She's up in the in the lookout, and the thing's starting to sway, and Glenn is trying to pull the walkers towards him, but there's so many and they're so loud. Like he's firing the gun, and it's almost like they're so loud they don't even hear him firing the gun, or they're just like so focused. If zombies can be focused, they're not going that way. But eventually he's able to kind of pull some of them off. Enid goes up there to rescue Maggie, and now we know why she was tearing up the cloth, so she can, I guess, give them something they could shimmy down on the other side of the wall, or cover the barbed wire or whatever to get over on the other side of the wall.
Ladder, either just rappel down using the sheets tied together or something. That's what I thought.
And just as things start to look extremely hopeless and Glenn is getting overrun, gunfire erupts, everybody gets shot, And I love when Abraham looks at Glenn and says, "Could you get the gate?"
Yeah, the best line in
and
the
look
show.
on Glenn's face, and he's like, "Appreciate it."
It's great.
The only thing
That
that scene was
Fire needs to amazing headshots to save Glenn, by the way. That was a pretty timely.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing that scene was missing was
the exact place they needed to stop zombies.
Sure,
I
I thought he was gone.
Sure.
I thought Glenn was done at that point. Okay, he made it back,
Yeah.
and Maggie's gonna watch him get eaten now. I just said that this is the end of it, but
But again, another moment where it's like, okay, how's he gonna get out of this? Like he's completely surrounded. The rest of them are there. So
The only thing missing from that scene was the A-Team theme.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
da, 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 da. You figure out what happened. I'm like, oh, great.
have the van come crashing through the wall at that point. Okay, yeah.
So the last thing we'll talk about is, unless I miss something, is Daryl. They back the tanker up. They dump a bunch of the gas, and for whatever reason, I guess maybe hey, you got a rocket launcher, let's use it. But I would think, hey, there's only so many rockets. Maybe we should like hang on to these instead of throwing a match on a bunch of gasoline. He decides, F it, I'm gonna fire this rocket launcher at this big pile of gasoline so it explodes. Which of course then the fire and everything leads the walkers to him and they all start burning. But I was just like, couldn't you just like throw in a match or a lighter? Or
I don't think gasoline
rub two sticks
ignites like
together,
that though.
or-
Honestly, especially in water. I think you need a big
Gasoline?
in water. I don't know. I'm not a scientist,
Sure,
but
it'll float. Yeah, you could almost sneeze at gasoline.
That's how,
and
like,
catch
that's
fire.
You know what, though? I'll explain it for you. It looked much
That's how
cooler.
like stunt.
Yeah.
That's how like stunt shows at like theme parks use. They put like gas in the water and light it on fire to make it all look fancy.
right.
Yeah, formally tied to this profession, I can guarantee you, gasoline ignites very easily, and yes, it will burn.
Yes,
on
Rusty
stuff.
used to be a rodeo clown.
Awesome. All right. Well, here's my question.
And arsonist.
Pyrotechnics aside, the walkers that walk into the fire/water, wouldn't they be extinguished by the water once they were kind of in the water? I didn't get that part. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was an amazing scene. Don't get me wrong.
It seems like the trap that no one's using apparently. If all you have to do is set a fire and walkers walk into it. Like,
I didn't think there was as much water though as it was gasoline. I mean, was it truly a
It was
lake?
a pond.
Oh,
It was
like
like a creek
a
or a
hole
pond.
leak.
Yeah, it was like a water hole. And I guess it was smart to do that instead of burning down the whole town.
Exactly.
I mean,
And to that tanker, I don't know how much gas they put in there.
Old
but-
Patty.
But yeah, that tanker, not to get, the volunteer fire department I was on, we had a truck that almost looked exactly like that and had a tank on the back, and that thing held 1,000 gallons of water. So if that thing was full, it pretty much had it had about 1,000 gallons of gasoline in it. So even if you took a couple hundred gallons and let it off, that's a lot of gas, and it could probably burn for quite some time. So
And they really set that on fire. I don't think they actually used gasoline. They used fire sticks, or whatever you want to call them in the industry, but propane and what have you. I don't think it was gasoline. But they definitely, that was real. It was not CG fire, which I was pleased to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess we can overlook the waste of an RPG launcher rocket onto a lake when you can just use a lighter. But yeah, besides that, I mean, it's well good.
Well, we skipped over one thing too. When Morgan took out Wolfman,
oh right, no good point.
and he apologized to him again. It's like, I'm sorry. Now, you guys can help me with this one too. Was he apologizing for not protecting him enough?
No, he's apologizing for the fact that he had killed him.
He was already dead. He was apologizing to a zombie. I mean,
yeah, it's Morgan.
Morgan.
okay. See, I took it as he apologized and saying I was not strong enough to protect you, or something like that. I was trying to protect this guy and save him, and I wasn't strong enough. That's the way I took it. That's why he was apologizing. I didn't understand that. Apologizing to a zombie.
Yeah, I do.
It's Morgan.
That's really all I have. I
That's
don't know.
kind of,
Okay.
I don't know what more we really need to say.
Yeah,
Morgan's been
It's
taking ground
Morgan.
for me with the whole wolf thing.
It's quite Chain Kane Morgan.
It's part of his philosophy. I guess.
I look forward.
Zombies
I look forward
end.
to seeing where things go with it. Hopefully, now that we've got a situation that we knew was going to get out of hand, and it did get out of hand with the wolf. So let's see where it goes now that we have some proof of the pudding, I guess.
That'll be the next spinoff. Is Morgan's going to walk the earth?
Speaking of Walk the Earth, that's a terrible segue. Let's do our quick Fear the Walking Dead Flight 460 podcast episode. The zombie awakens.
Yes, he does.
He's put in the bathroom. Someone got bit. That
And that concludes
concludes
this
the Fear
week's.
the Walking Dead Flight 460 podcast.
And, you know, our podcast is probably about as long as the second one. So.
See, I didn't know you could actually lock the laboratory from the outside. That's a little trick. That. See, you learn things from watching these
Flight
shows.
attendants, they know what they're doing.
They know the tricks, right? She got bit for the pleasure
Well,
of
the
that.
problem with her was that she wasn't holding anybody's hand while doing it. That's why she got bit.
You know, next time I go on a plane, I'm going to look at the bathroom door and be like, "Can you lock this?"
From the outside, right? Yeah.
So what? Morgan kills the zombie wolf. Apologizes. What happens next?
Well, I mean, yeah. Then obviously, then the fire happened. It was a little bit before that, but it was. I mean, that's pretty much it. And Rick gives his speech to Carl. I guess that's the end of the episode, pretty much.
Yeah, and I thought that was, this is kind of Rick's turning point. Like at this point, he realizes that they can make a life here. They can, these people are worthy. That they can rebuild. They can do everything he was kind of against when they got there and suspicious of. This was kind of Rick's turning point on Alexandria. So it'll be really interesting to see how things go from here. With only 7 episodes left in this half season, but I'll be real curious to see. We know just from interviews and stuff that apparently the finale of the season is very rough. There's been several cast members that have said, it brought them to tears, it made them angry, like it was the roughest, their worst day of
I
filming.
mean,
So
someone big is going. That's what that
somebody
means.
big is
Yeah.
probably going, yeah. So given that they kind of have to rebuild Alexandria, I wonder if we're gonna, how swiftly we're gonna move on that before the next big thing starts to happen.
I do like the final speech as far as kind of Rick goes. I've been championing the kind of crazy Rick that we've been seeing lately because it just feels like
I love
there's
it.
something so much more interesting about me watching Andrew Garfield. Spider-Man in the show is great. So was Andrew Lincoln getting a chance to kind of take the character to some darker places, even though we've seen teases of that here and there. I like this kind of the mix of no nonsense and I actually look like a crazy person who could really be the villain of the show mixed with my sense of logic that seems to want to protect this. I like that it's been going, which had been proven 3 times last season when Red Shirt got killed by a walker every 10 minutes to try to challenge Rick. But I like that we're setting up the second half of the season. It obviously takes a page out of the comic books very literally. Again, this scene is right out of the comics as well. I like that again. It feels organic enough, like we're seeing this come out of a place where hey, Rick actually is having a turn of conscience in terms of how to treat the Alexandrians, but it's coming from a place where the episode actually established a good reason for that. So it's a really nicely written monologue to Carl of all things. And there's in a show full of death and everything, there's some optimism there as we've already conquered all these walkers that we've been plagued with for the first half of the season. Now we killed them all, and Carl snaps back to life real quick. So it's like, hey, all right, we're off and running on the second half of the season.
Well, that brings up a question. Should this episode have been the closer?
I
of the
actually
first
think
half?
so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I totally agree
did
with
they
that.
insert that Morgan story and then that pushed everything back one episode? Or did it seems like they shot them out of order this season. They were very clear. They kept saying that we're out of order this season. Everything's a little bit jumbled. Maybe it got pushed out. Maybe it wasn't supposed to end like it did the first half of the season. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like it's because this episode's so big in scale, where it's like, well, we need to start things off a bit. It does make me wonder because obviously they have the scripts for these episodes, or at least mostly scripted, or at least an idea of what these episodes should
Right.
be. So what The Walking Dead has 8 episodes and another 8 episodes. So what was it? The premiere was like a 90-minute premiere, right?
it was. It was not even a Morgan episode in there too.
Yeah, so there's 2 90-minute episodes, and I argue that the premiere felt like it was 2 episodes, but there wasn't enough stuff to go on to make one of them exciting.
It felt stretched. Right? I felt like it was yeah, I
so
agree
it
with that.
merged like 2 episodes into one. So I don't know. Obviously, Gimble's been in control of the show for a while now, so he's had a better hand on it than the past showrunners have. So a lot of questions, I guess, concerning what they wanted to do with this whole arc involving this giant zombie horde that leads up to the kind of the Negan half of the season, which I expect this is supposed to be. So Yeah, I mean,
But I'm kind of okay with it beginning like this, though. Like, I'm kind of good that the second half is beginning strong, not just all right, the slow ramp up again until the last episode of the season.
Yeah.
I'm of two minds of it. I wanted the last half to end like this, but then I like it beginning like this. Too.
I think just maybe like thematically, it felt like it should have flowed with the end, that first half. But from a momentum standpoint, it actually is nice to kind of, like you said, start in, with the pedal to the floor.
This kind of reminds me of the way they opened, or they resolved the Terminus story, over the season break, and then they resolved it all like with a big bang episode like this to start off the second half of the season, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I don't think I understand what people are saying when they make that argument. This should have been the season ender, but on the other hand, I really appreciate what you guys are saying about it starting off strong.
Right.
I really think that's a good strategy to take.
For a change, if anything.
There's another factor here involving how people consume The Walking Dead. I intended that pun completely. The nature of watching the show, obviously, it gets big ratings, so people are obviously watching the show at the time. But at the same time, watching the show as like if you binge watch it or you get it on Blu-ray or whatever, you're gonna watching the show. The momentum doesn't really feel much of a shift in terms of seeing each episode one after another if you're watching it at home at your own convenience. So I wonder how much that plays a factor in as well. Where you obviously see dividing the show. So yeah, when it starts back up again, you have this big explosive episode. But when you watch it at home, you probably watch this at the first half and then you watch the second half, and there's no split in between.
I thought that too, but they could have maybe trimmed down one of the Alexandria episodes. There was two solid, pretty much Alexandria-centric episodes. They could have maybe slimmed that down a bit and then squeezed it all into the first half. But there may be a reason why they did it this way. I'm actually very cool with it now that I've seen this episode. I feel very good about the next half of the season.
So, Jim, who is our sponsor for this episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast?
Our beloved sponsor for this and every episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast, Russ, is DCBService.com, where you can save 30, 40, 50% on all of your pop culture needs, not just comic books, not just trades, paperbacks, but also action figures, clothing, anything you can find in the previous catalog, pretty much. I saw some really cool Walking Dead items. I wanted to point out there's one called the Walking Dead Survivor's Guide trade paperback, and it's kind of a look at all the characters, kind of bring you up to speed on the comic to just kind of give you an idea of where the characters are coming from the early part of the book. Also, something that really appealed to me, that's 40% off. It's only $7.79. Something else I thought was really cool, the Walking Dead adult coloring book. Adult coloring books have been very huge in the back.
It sounds very sexual.
It's cool because you only need
Adult.
red, black, blue, and purple pretty much, and green, right?
Just a set of pencils to do, right, with Walking Dead. It's like you need some charcoal.
And the Charlie Adler art and the Tony Moore art looks great blown up like this in black and white to color. So it's kind of a cool match, and it's something even if you haven't read the comic books, it'd be fun to do while you watch the show. I would suppose. That's only $8.87. That's 40% off as well. If you want to catch up with the comic books, they have the Walking Dead books, especially. They have the hardcovers at 45% off. The compendiums, which are the giant 48 issue collections, they're 50% off. A lot of times DCB Service will have even cheaper prices than Amazon. Definitely check them out. DCBService.com. Also their sister site InStockTrades.com. If you're looking for anything like that along the pop culture line, I've been really into the McFarlane blind bag Walking Dead figures lately, and I get them from DCB Service as well. If you get the previous catalog or from your comic book shop or whatever, anything in there that you want to buy, you can get it, and you can get it at a discount at DCBService.com. Definitely check them out, and we really thank them for their sponsorship. They're awesome. They're great. Buy all your stuff there. I mean, I don't know. They have a really cool Negan resin statue of him holding Lucille triumphantly on a pile of thugs.
Ooh, that
he's
sounds
taken out. That is a list price of $450. You can get it at DCB Service for that'll be $279 and change. So that's almost half price.
You can't beat the prices. I'm looking at Amazon right now. It's actually crushing Amazon prices. All the things you just
No,
mentioned.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you go to In Stock Trades, almost any trade or hardcover that you're looking for is going to be cheaper at In Stock Trades than it will be at Amazon. I mean, that's pretty much a given.
Yeah.
And if you order $50, it's free shipping. So even if you have Prime, you can't even use that as an excuse. And I think, unlike Amazon, In Stock Trades doesn't charge the sales tax.
No, they don't. Like I said, I get my McFarlane blind bags, Walking Dead blind bags from there. So they also have a wide selection of action figures and toys. You can order from them. Same deal, cheaper than Amazon. And again, DCB Service will do you right on the service side. If something is up with your order that taking too long, or something is wrong, they will do everything in their power to fix it. They're good people. They really they really back up their site with the good service, which I mean is really important. You can order things anywhere online, but I mean to know that you're going to have the service to lean on if you need it is really a good peace of mind.
Agreed. So you want to do Busters?
Bust it up.
You go first, Aaron.
Okay, I will go first with my Buster rating that I obviously considered well ahead of time and not stalling to give. I will give this episode a solid 4 out of 5 Busters. I say 4. I feel like I'm going a bit high, but I feel like the entertainment value was well above my kind of gripes with the episode. I think there's a lot of ridiculous stuff that happens, but at the same time, it just felt like this was an episode that really wanted to embrace the ridiculousness, regardless of how dramatic things were maybe supposed to be interpreted. I like what I was seeing. I tend to be more positive on the kind of character-driven episodes or whatnot than the action ones, but this one, it won me over. I mean, when you start an episode off with Daryl killing a group of motorcycle guys with an RPG, you're on the right track and kind of making me smile while watching episode of Walking Dead. So I'm going to go 4 out of 5 Busters.
Greg?
I will say 4.75 Busters. This is a really solid episode of The Walking Dead. I'm definitely an action junkie. I've always been very clear about that in my view of the show. And I think this hit all the right notes for me. Not just the raw action, but the cinematic stuff we mentioned before. The way the music was worked in, the great direction by Nick Cotero, the special effects. Everything made this episode edge of my seat kind of effect as well, where I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought Abraham was a goner, I thought Clem was a goner. It really captured me, and I was just enthralled. So not a 5 because of some of the little areas we talked about, but definitely a strong 4.75 for me.
I will also give it a 4.75. I was going to give it a 4.25, but when you use a rocket launcher in your episode, that's a half point wrong.
One of my biggest criticisms of the show is that it can just be over serious for an over long period of time, and I really like the way that kind of almost slapstick. I don't want to say slapstick, but almost like we were talking about with the RPG kind of setting the tone at the beginning. And I don't know, I just really like this a lot. I give this a 4.5. I thought it was really cool, and I like the way the kind of over the topness kind of undercuts some of the more serious things going on. I mean, as scary as the zombie apocalypse is, there's so many aspects of it that are just fundamentally absurd that you can play off of in so many different ways, like we saw in this episode. So I definitely liked it a lot. 4.5. But who cares what I think? Every week we ask members of our Facebook group, the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group.
I care, Jim.
You may have heard of it. It's on the Facebook.
712 members strong right now. 712.
Right. Yeah. It's very popular with the young people, the millennials like Aaron and stuff. They really like the Facebook. So I've heard. Personally, I'm still on GeoCities, but whatever. We'll roll different ways.
You can email your thoughts on Jim's GeoCities account at jimdeets@altavista.com.
That's right. No, I'm on Prodigy.com. Thank you so much.
Use Net for Life, yo.
Go to my news group. Exactly. Just
BBS.
message me in my news group.
If you have some extra AOL minutes, you can really get in on that one.
That's an even older reference.
Wow. Dig deep on that. But we ask our listeners every week to ask what you thought, what your ratings, your best ratings are for the episodes. And this week is no different. And of course, you guys help us out a lot with your comments, and we really appreciate if you join the group. I mean, we post Aaron's Young Folks reviews there every time he does them every week at theyoungfolks.com. We also have news and fun stuff and discussion too on the Facebook group. Like Craig said, it's over 700 strong now, so please join us and join in the discussion. Like Evar Santa Marina, for instance, who said this episode, I loved it. I really wasn't expecting the opening scene. It really is a tease that they mentioned Negan, but now effectively we can forget about him for the rest of the season. I really liked how Jesse and her son bought it. I would like to see the older son suffer a little more, but hey, I know it's close to the comic, but played out live. 4.75 nibbles of the turd out of 5. Michelle Marco, best episode yet. Action scares feelings. It was awesome. Mike Jones, frequent contributor. 4.5 Sam, which is. I see what you did there, Mike. Great episode. Just 2 moments kept it for me, perfect for me. The over-the-top Daryl fan service with the rocket launcher. How do all these kids die and Judith survives? Not even Father Gabriel is a babysitter, but are in danger. I loved it otherwise. Adam Crane, 4 out of 5. Daryl effing up Negan's motorcycle gang with the RPG. David P. the third, 4.9 Daryl's No Man's Land out of 5. I had to take a point 1 off for Rick letting Baby Judith be cared for by Father Gabe. Love the massacre and cannot wait for the impending revenge by Negan. Oh, and I'm glad they're adding 10 seconds into Flight 462. That's like 10% more. Enjoyed it. Mathematically correct, yes. Shayla Betzavega, this should have been the finale. 5 out of 5 One-Eyed Willies. Oh, Coral. Brent Jones, 3.95 perfectly timed returns to town out of 5. A horde that size only takes out 2.5 people. I enjoyed it, but too many things worked out so smoothly for the show. Maybe because I was expecting more Alexandrian red shirt death, but things just seemed to fall into place across the board. For everyone not wearing zombie guts. Love Dave in this one. Another Glenn near death. Are they softening us up? Max Sofer, I hate to oversell it, but that's one of my favorite episodes ever. 5 nibbles out of 5. I was Abraham, not the most popular character on the show. Can you get the gate? Hilarious.
He has the best lines. He definitely does.
Also, can we have vague comic moment to realize Rick went full Tyrese?
I said that.
Yes, he did. Ian Timms, 4.9 white shirts out of 5. Not sure about Rick leaving Judith with Gabriel. Man, they're right on. That's where I am too. I was only 12 hours before that. He put a gun to his head. Perfect otherwise. That one opening scene. Elisa Gonzalez, 5. Who's Negan's? Okay.
See, there you go.
Elisa, stay tuned. Robert Nigro at 4. Really handy RPGs out of 5. Grapes about an otherwise riveting episode. The death count of Alexandrian red shirts. The callback to Rick carrying a wounded Carl to Herschel's farm, the escape from Jeopardy via fire we saw before Eternus, and Herschel's farm, Berserker Rick whacking at stalkers superhumanly after first Laurie's, now Jesse's death, and almost forgot Daryl happening to be able to make something blow up real good, first the prison tank, now Negan's crew. The series plagiarizes from himself so often. I didn't look at it that way until that post, but I guess he's right in some ways. Jimmy Tucker, 4.75 Dread Pirate Carl's out of 5. Carol Shee, an episode that did so much right, I still have problems with the clunky dialogue. Walking Dead is not known for trusting his audience with subtlety, is it? No, it is not. Richard Chopper Cherry Charrington, welcome back to The Walking Dead. What an episode. Best one for a long time. I'll give that 4.5. Zombie barbecues out of 5. Didn't expect Negan's men to be wiped out so soon. Rob Cook, 5. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. I've heard that before. Out of 5. What a cold opener. Boom. There goes Negan's men. We had RPGs, the death of Porch Dick Jr. and Carl's eye. Rick's Rampage, maybe most ever zombie kills for an episode. Maybe. This for me was the best episode to date now. Someone can just tell Abraham who Negan is. And David J. Garrick, I thought it was pretty fun. Maybe the most ridiculously unbelievable action to date, but I appreciated the badassery. 4 out of 5. And again, if you'd like to join the discussion, we'd love to have you. It's the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group on the Facebooks.
And Aaron, I want to thank you for changing the header picture there. It shows Daryl with the RPG poised, ready to fire it. So thank you for doing that.
I'm on top of these things, guys. What can I say? Spoilers be damned for those that didn't watch in the previous 24 hours. I really wanted to get up to that cover picture quickly. Although I guess I could have just put like Carl with no eye anymore. It really just ruined it for everybody. But no, the Facebook page, it's a fun group to be a part of, and so yeah, for sure, just as Jim said, be sure to leave your buster ratings and be sure to participate because we have a lot of fun out there.
Agreed. So what else? One quick thing. I guess news, sort of news, but just worth. I'm sure we talked about it in the show in the past. But trailer came out today for Daredevil season 2. Netflix's Daredevil season 2, which prominently featured John Bernthal as the Punisher. So if you're a John Bernthal fan from The Walking Dead or from other stuff, you might want to check that out because it looks like to play a pretty spot-on version of the Punisher. So I'm looking forward.
Also, wasn't they announced this week that Alicia Witt was cast for The Walking Dead as well?
Yes.
Yes. And an undisclosed role.
I think we were going to talk about that last episode, but we didn't. But yeah, she is. Yeah, we don't have a name for her yet, but she's definitely in it.
Really not much other news. I mean, I guess Fear the Walking Dead, like we talked about last week, starts April 10th, so there will be no break between the two. We still don't know. Does anybody know, are we going to have a split season for Fear like we do the regular?
Well, I'm assuming. I mean, they got a 16-episode season lined up here, so I mean, I'm assuming they're going to break it up 8 and 8.
Well, I guess that just... when they come back then, I guess if they split it up, we'll come back the following
Yeah,
because Walking Dead has to come back at some point.
Walking Dead will come back in October. So
maybe it'll run during football. Maybe it'll run during a different day.
Well, I mean, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason they go with the split season for Walking Dead is because of the Super Bowl and football playoffs and everything else. They don't want to butt up against that. So Fear doesn't really have any kind of like major event. April, so if it's 16 episodes, it's 4 months, so April, May, June, July. There's still August and September.
Maybe they can switch it to Monday, like they're doing with Saul. During football season, if they split it up that way.
I feel like that'd be a lot of Walking Dead. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know
Yeah.
how eager everyone would be to respond to a show they thought was okay with the show Prime and not get kind of overwhelmed by the amount of Walking Dead content.
Plus, they're about to launch Preacher, which is another supernatural property based on a comic book.
I can't wait for that one. That looks really good.
We shall see. Dominic Cooper's
That's
the
true,
actor.
but that seems like a show that would follow The Walking Dead. Make sure you maximize the ratings.
Yeah.
In the same way as the much anticipated Into the Badlands, which returns.
Love Into the Badlands. I loved it.
All right.
I may be the only one that loved
Yeah, I just didn't like the way they made us watch it. That's all. We been down
Made us. I mean, made us.
At least the first 15
You
minutes.
watch everything on YouTube like seconds after.
That's true. You're right.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, if it's 4 months, so we get April, May, June, July, August. So that leaves September, 2 months between the end of Fear and the beginning of season 7. So if they did a split, they really only have less than about 8 weeks to play with. So I guess they could do 8 episodes, be off 8 weeks, do 8, and go full into The Walking Dead. But I don't know, something tells me they're just going to go 16 and just do it.
That would be the only way that makes sense, right? Because I don't, unless there's like some.
Well, they do have a break in filming, though. I think they do have a little bit of a mid-season break. At least The Walking Dead does. I don't know about Fear.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Fear doesn't have the same constraint that's what I'm getting at. Fear doesn't have the same constraint The Walking Dead does to not compete against football. I mean, there's not really anything it's competing against. I mean, summer is pretty dead for television in general, so it doesn't really have any network stuff to compete with. I guess baseball is not really a big contender.
If I had to guess, I mean, it'd have to be April. When it goes to like the beginning of June.
Yeah, so 8 weeks.
4 months.
No, but no, it was, sorry,
months.
it was just a half
It was
season.
8,
It'd be 8 weeks, and then they pick it.
Yeah, it's the middle of
and
June.
then they'd stop, and then they pick it back up where the first season started, which was like August, right? Like late August.
So they have July off, and then they pick up in August,
Exactly.
and then they lead right into The Walking Dead, which is in
I think
October.
that,
maybe.
I mean, that's the only logic I see making sense, because they're not gonna raise up The Walking Dead so they can put Fear the Walking Dead in October or whatever. They're not gonna going 16 episodes of a show that people kind of like the first season around. Like I don't know if AMC's that stupid, honestly.
I think they're gonna push it to Monday and put it up against football. I think they're gonna put it right in between the breaks.
They
So
won't
you
be
have-
competing with football because it. Oh, you mean you think they'll pick it up once Walking Dead? Actually
Correct.
So like November,
Yeah,
like
so
beginning of
yeah.
December to
Correct.
February.
Yep, it'll be 8 of Fear, 8 of the Prime, 8 of Fear, 8 of, I think they're gonna do it that way. They'll just move it to Monday to lose that football loss that they're
I
afraid
guess
of.
so. I mean, American Horror Story does that. They're on like Wednesdays throughout, like from like beginning of October all the way to January.
Yep. And that gives us continuous Walking Dead. It just feeds the frenzy, continuously without having them overlap. I don't think they'll put the two shows together. That's probably
Yeah,
not
yeah,
a
that's a
good
good idea at all.
Yeah.
So they'll be holding hands.
No.
idea. We know how that ended up.
We'll see.
I want that plane to crash already. Sorry, I want it to go down.
Watch, they'll make an announcement at AMC that the Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462 webisode has been so successful they decided to extend the season, so the new character premiere in the second half of Fear the Walking Dead season 2.
They'll refuel. They'll flip them going.
They'll cut in scenes from Air Force One.
Yeah, get off my plane.
They'll flip them. Fear the Walking Dead will become the web series, and the
Flight 462 will be
airplane
hour-long
will
Can you
episodes.
imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Hour-long episodes of people staring pensively at each other.
For more Fear the Walking Dead, watch it on the web. But now, more Flight 462.
Do we have anything else? Anything else that we need to discuss?
There's a trailer for the new Walking Dead game from Telltale Games based on Michonne.
Yes, the day after we recorded, they announced the release date for that Michonne Telltale game that you mentioned last week. And
Well, we did talk about it, didn't we? We did mention it a bit. We just didn't see the trailer. We didn't get specific, but we did talk about it.
Right.
The trailer is the first, I believe, 5 or 6 minutes of the game.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool. I'll check it
So
out.
it's a nice, good, vertical slice. But I mean, it's going to be a Telltale game, and you get. It's going to be set up like the other games, obviously. But ittle be a solo story of Michonne.
Because the other Telltale games didn't have our characters really in them at all. It was their own,
No,
their own
it's the
characters.
same universe. Yeah, same universe.
Is this a backstory for her? I didn't watch the trailer. Is it kind of like her beginnings or her origins, or what is this
No.
about?
There's a
It's a day in the life. We're kidding. I don't know.
We talked about it last time. It's
With Passion Without Pets, I guess that's the, yeah.
I think it takes place between comic episode 126 and 130 something. We mentioned last week. It's,
Right. Yeah.
Michonne goes away in the comic for a little while after All Out War.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's what happens to her while she was gone and when she comes back.
But, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Telltale Walking Dead game series. It's between the comic TV show and the game had become my preferred way to consume Walking Dead. So I'm of course very excited for more Telltale diversions into the Walking Dead series.
Yeah, me too.
February 23rd. That's when it premieres on PC, Mac, PS4, PS3, Xbox One, and Xbox 360.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm there.
So we good?
Seems like it.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, right after this, we'll have a little message from Mr. Jordan. So until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, no one gets the clock out today.
Take care.
Could you get the gate?
Pal.
So now, as we promised, here's a short message from Jordan to kind of give everybody an update of what he's got going on, and we finish off with some bloopers.
Hey everybody, Jordan from Jersey here. Well, that's not exactly true. Well, I mean, I guess technically I'm still from Jersey. I just won't be in Jersey for much longer. I'll keep the story short or as much as I can. But in a nutshell, I just haven't been happy in my current life, chasing the same old jobs, climbing the same ladders. And so a few weeks ago I quit my job. I've been getting rid of all my stuff, and in a few days I'll be hitting the road and leaving Jersey behind for good. I'm heading for Austin, Texas. Now, lots of kids want to grow up to be actors, and I was one of those kids, but I'm also a fairly practical person. Only a few select people actually get to act for a living, even though a lot of people try, so I never even bothered pursuing that dream. I followed other dreams that I didn't hate, but I didn't love, and I was just chasing my own silver and bronze medals in life. Well, it's one thing if you chase a lesser dream and make it, but it's a whole other thing when you chase those lesser dreams and fail repeatedly. So why chase second place in a race you don't even care about all that much? So from now on, I'm not. I'll be chasing gold. I'm running in a race I've actually dreamed about since I was a little kid. I'm moving out west to get into the arts and entertainment industry. I want to act, I want to write, I want to direct, I want to edit, I want to do all that stuff. And I'd much rather run in that race, as competitive and difficult as it is, than to continuously fail in a race that I don't really want to run in the first place. It's not going to be easy, believe me, I know that, but it's what I need to do. And right now, Austin seems like the place to be for that kind of work. It has a thriving arts and entertainment scene, and it's a lot cheaper to live in than Los Angeles. Plus, it's a lot closer than California. So what does that mean for you, dear listeners? Well, it means that I'm not going to be podcasting for a while. I'd love to. Trust me, I really do love this, but it simply won't be viable for the next few months as I build a new life for myself. So I'm leaving Walking Dead TV in the very capable hands of the rest of the guys. I'll be back, eventually, but for now, I have some very hard work to do. In the meantime, you can of course continue to follow me on Twitter at JordanFRMJersey, and I'd also suggest you subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JordanFROMJersey, whole word from there. It hasn't been updated in a while, but I do plan on documenting my travels and uploading them to my channel. There will also probably be a blog and a GoFundMe if you're interested, but just keep an eye on Twitter for those as they develop. Anyway, thank you for supporting me for all these years on WDTV and on the HHWLOD Podcast Network in general. Please continue to support the show, and I'll talk to you very soon. Maybe on this show, or maybe you'll see me on the small screen, or even the big one before then. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, have a great week, everybody.
Directed by